So this is going to be a response video to one done by Steve Shaw a few days ago talking about frequency versus body part training, aka the bro split.
They wanted me fired. Basically, that was the bottom line. For spreading the heresy, for spreading the nonsense that frequency training was a viable option.
Now, the fitness pendulum has gone back and forth, as it always does, between high frequency training and low frequency training. Actually, as it turns out, both are okay. And I see this as overwhelmingly a positive thing. What it means is that you can train with basically any kind of frequency you want. 1 day per week, 2 days per week, 3 days per week per muscle group are all okay. And honestly, this should be viewed as a good thing because it means that you have a lot more flexibility when it comes to actually structuring your training. And only a few things actually matter for muscle growth, which I'll get into later in the video. Frequency, as it turns out, doesn't matter that much. I certainly have some answer or some post somewhere where I say something like bro splits are probably not optimal. And it turns out I was wrong. And I think it's important to have strong beliefs about fitness, but be willing to change your mind and admit you are wrong if you got it wrong. So it turns out you can do a bro split and you can still make very, very good gains. Do I advocate a bro split? Sure. If that's what you prefer doing and that's what allows you to progress and actually hit the other factors that actually matter for muscle growth. I think it's important to use science as a guide, but realize it's not everything. You also have to look at what are the best in the world doing. And a lot of them, they are doing these bro splits. They are doing mostly body part splits. Now, it's also worth noting that it is very individual. So if you have a meta-analysis and it says on average, frequency training is better, it's 10% better than a bro split, or vice versa. Bro splits are 10% better than high frequency. That doesn't necessarily tell what is going to be right for you, because a meta-analysis is going to be a study of studies, and every single individual in those respective studies is going to be a little bit different. So perhaps you're one of the individuals who responds really well to high frequency, or vice versa. Maybe you respond overwhelmingly better to a body part split or a bro split. It really is individual, and I think this is where experimentation and taking a hold of your training and actually, being responsible of your own training is going to be very, very important, and not just relying too much on science. I think it's a good way to get a push in the right direction, but you do need to actually do things yourself as well. So what actually matters for muscle growth? Well, I would say it's 5 things. First, consistency.
Just focus on the basics, consistency, all that kind of stuff.
If anything else, you need to be consistent, okay? You can take a week off here and there, not a big deal. Even a couple of weeks, a couple of times per year, also not that big a deal. But it needs to be consistent. You need to make it a habit. And if you are consistently taking large swaths of time where you're not doing anything at all, you're going to go forward, then backward, and forward, and backward, and you're not really going to achieve a high level. All of the best athletes in the world are very, very consistent. Second, exercise selection and technique. So if you're choosing just complete shit exercises all the time, all these sort of nipple twisting, isolation exercises, self-resisted leg curls, pec fly supersetted with biceps, up, up, and away jump squats for hypertrophy, Smith machine curls, Bosu ball curl, incline drag curl, one arm pinky twisting offset loaded band assisted dumbbell curl with chains. Yeah, that might get you some growth, but I think choosing the big, hard, heavy, compound movements is going to be an absolutely phenomenal base from which to grow. Sure, you can add in a little bit of isolation. I'm not against isolation, but if you're only doing isolation, I don't think that's going to be nearly as effective. If you're always doing machines, you're always doing not as good exercises, it's just not going to be as good of a situation overall. Sure, some Mr. Olympias do only machine presses, but they're also very much assisted in other ways. Also, technique is very important, how you actually do the exercise. The mind-muscle connection is definitely a real thing. If you're just doing a biceps curl and you're like not really focusing, versus actually flexing every single rep and trying to actively contract your bicep, you're going to get a lot more out of it. Same with just about any exercise. You shouldn't necessarily focus on your quads when you're squatting, but if you're squatting and you're like doing a good morning style of squat and the hips are shooting way back and you're not really getting a lot of activity at the knee, you're not going to build big quads. It's just not going to happen. You'd be better off staying more upright, maybe pausing a little bit, slower tempo, that kind of thing, and you'll see much more growth. So how you do the exercise is actually very, very important. Third, your effort levels, or how close you're going to failure. If you're always 5 reps away from failure, you probably just won't see very much growth. You might get beginner gains, you might see some progress in the very, very beginning, but typically speaking, you won't get to a high level. You need to go closer to failure, and the research is very, very consistent. 2 reps away from failure is just about as good as 1 rep away from failure or to actual failure. But if you're consistently like 4, 5, 6 reps away from failure, that is not a working set. It's a warm-up. Number 4 is going to be volume, how much work you are actually doing, how many working sets. Now, I don't think this is nearly as important as the research shows. Some research is just absolutely insane. It says like 35 sets of squats to failure per week is going to be optimal. It's going to be better than 20 sets, it's going to be better than 15 sets. I don't buy that. I don't think these people are actually going anywhere near failure. I think a lot of the research on volume is not really all that good. I think a lot of it is basically pure fabrication. You take these beginners and tell them, yeah, go to failure, and it's actually not anywhere close to failure. If you're only doing warm-ups in the study, every single working set is actually a warm-up, yeah, high volume is going to be effective because every set is just not very stimulatory, and you need more to actually get the job done. So I would say volume, it is a factor for sure, but it might not be the best thing to focus on. Other factors usually come first, and you can add volume if you plateau.
In a reasonable amount of volume, don't shoot for 50 billion sets and lose the quality of your volume. On the other hand, don't try to seek some minimal amount of volume just because some hit proponent on the internet said you have to. A reasonable amount of volume is a quality amount of volume. So basically, you're getting most out of the sets you can.
Number 5 is going to be progressive overload. Volume is fine, all these other factors are fine, but if you're not getting stronger, you're not going to see a lot of progress.
Some sort of a progressive overload plan. You have to get a lot stronger than you are now. That doesn't mean you necessarily need to beat the crap out of your body. That doesn't mean you need to get power lifter strong. But at some point, you're going to need to get stronger than you are now.
Yes, you can build muscle without adding weight to the bar by focusing on other factors, but I think in the long term, you're going to want to get stronger. If you're benching 225, and then a year from now, you're still benching 225, I don't think you're going to see a lot of growth in the chesticle region. It's just not going to happen. For the individual, strength and size are going to be very, very much correlated. Probably 70-80% correlation there, according to studies. So I view this as an overwhelmingly positive discovery. It shows that frequency doesn't matter as much as we thought. It still might be a factor for some people, but it is quite individual, and I think you can make progress on a bro split, on a body part split. You can make progress on moderate frequency or high frequency. It's really just up to you and what you prefer to do. And this is a good thing. It shows that you don't need to obsess over your split as much as you thought. I get a lot of people asking, like, should I do push-pull legs or upper lower, or like, what is the best split? The best split is whatever is going to allow you to hit these other factors. The split is just a means to an end to hit these other attributes that actually matter.
You have this black and white thinking. You have this black and white camp. You have these people that are just plant their flags and they're ready to go to war over one side or the other, and they're missing the big picture.
And ultimately, I completely agree that you shouldn't plant your flag too much in one camp. You should try to keep an open mind, and you shouldn't be telling anyone exactly how they should train, just because there is a wide variety of diets that are optimal, of frequencies, of training styles, of exercise selection. And, there are some things that I do plant my flag on, for example, progressive overload, compound movements being best, etc. But at the same time, I think keeping an open mind is always a good thing. Alright, that is all for this video. Do YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe if you're not already, all that stuff. You know what to do. I'll see you, hopefully, in the next video. Peace!
Tally ho.